It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And this is CarEdge Live for Thursday, October 2nd, with your hosts, me, Ray, here in Ventnor City, and Zach, well, in his living room in Washington, D.C. How are you today, handsome?
I'm doing fantastic, Dad. So glad to be here with you. Very excited for today's show. A friendly reminder to everyone that if we can help you out, we've got an incredible team of people behind the scenes back at CarEdge.com, whether it be shopping for a new used vehicle or car buying services, CarEdge Insights. We can help you research, warranty, tracking your vehicle value, that and so much more. Check it out back at CarEdge.com. Now, Dad, the big story this morning, really impressed by what the team over at CDG News has been up to. They dug into the data, Dad. Carvana versus CarMax, why their loan troubles are dictating the used car market and what dealers are doing about it. Now, the moment you start to dig into this information, things very quickly become, how do we say this, Dad, bad. Here's the summary over on X. Again, thank you to CDG for the great reporting here. CarMax and Carvana's loan troubles are reshaping the used car market. Both groups' 2024 loan pools are running hot, posting delinquencies 2 to 3 times higher than prime auto benchmarks. And that's unusual because their average borrower scores for CarMax, it's about 714 is the FICO score. Carvana's 695 should be tracking much closer to prime. Instead, delinquencies are climbing fast. CarMax's pool is already at 4.5% 30-day delinquency, while Carvana's heavier subprime mix is deteriorating even faster. Repos, though, remain low because lenders are increasingly stacking on payment extensions to keep loans alive, which means fewer cars cycling back to the lanes. And in light of off-lease volume and slower trade-ins, the wholesale supply is tightening just as competition at the auctions heats up. So the high level here, Dad.
Yes.
It's been a whole week of this, is that auto lending and auto finance is screwing the car market, and Carvana's and CarMax's auto loan performance is deteriorating, indicating potential disaster for our dear friend, the auto industry.
Well, it's more than a dear friend. It's our lifeline. It's our lifeline.
It's our livelihood.
It's our livelihood. This is how we make a living. So I don't want to see the automobile industry collapse. I would prefer to see some common sense applied when it comes to who we're lending money to and at what loan to value ratios. But this just indicates that the issues that we're seeing with these two, and these are the two largest purveyors of pre-owned cars in America. When you look at their numbers, it's a preview of what the entire industry is going to be going through. So if we see loan delinquencies increasing at a dramatic rate at CarMax, where the average credit score for their borrowers is 714, that's troubling. Now, there are many who would suggest, well, the reason is because, well, those customers paid dearly for the cars that they bought. They overpaid. But that has nothing to do with the payment they signed up for. They either knew they could or they couldn't afford to make that payment on a monthly basis. But I think this is a broader issue for a much broader market and a broader economy. That we are on the brink of disaster, and nobody really wants to admit it. We'd rather stick our heads in the sand and just keep pretending to go on like we've been going on, and everything will be fine. I don't know. You look at job creation and things like that, and it doesn't seem as if everything's fine.
I want to dive into more of the data, and then I want to talk about what happens on the other side of this and what impact that'll have on used car pricing and for our community, Dad, people who are in the market to buy new and used cars. But first, I want to look at some more data. Okay. Morningstar's report on Carvana's Auto Receivables Trust 2024 N3. Here we go, folks. We're about to dig into the data. Auto Receivables Trust is simply an asset-backed security that pays some returns. You can think of it as a bond backed by packaged auto loans analogous to the mortgage-backed securities of the past. Big financial institutions buy these as they tend to have a higher yield. Carvana issues two types of these packaged products. One is P-backed by prime loans, and one is N-backed by non-prime loans. Look at the non-prime tranches over the past year. The average car loan is $23,000 for non-prime borrowers at Carvana in this particular cohort we're looking at. The average interest rate on those loans is 21%. The average loan term, Dad, is 72 months. This is Carvana, so obviously they're only for used vehicles. And the average loan to value ratio is 100%. The average FICO is 580. We're just going to sit on this for a second.
The average FICO is 580
for their non-prime cohort here.
Okay, well, yeah, no, that takes that is a very special cohort.
But Dad, the numbers I just read through are alarming for a variety of reasons, and I want you to break them down. Primarily the fact that you have that interest rate for that long of a loan term for that price of vehicle is just a recipe for disaster, which I want you to explain. And then we are going to jump back to yesterday's show, folks, and talk about Wells Fargo, because it puts into perspective how, my dad likes to say, knucking futz what Wells Fargo is doing right now is like, oh my God. Okay, but I'm pulling the data back up on this.
Could you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Could you go to so we know it's a 72-month loan at 21% interest.
Oh no.
Okay. And the average car loan is $23,000. I'm just curious as to what those payments are that these subprime borrowers are having a hard time making. The other thing this shows is that maybe we shouldn't be making credit so readily available for people who have shown in the past they can't handle.
Before we go over to the auto loan calculator, again, I need you to just put into perspective for our community why these stats that you're looking at here are something that as a community we should all strive to avoid putting ourselves in this situation. Help us understand, Dad, why I'm calling out, hey, it's an average car loan of $23,000. It's a used car for 72 months. Why is that ringing an alarm bell for me? Why is 21% interest ringing an alarm bell for me? Why is 100% loan to value ringing an alarm bell for me?
Well, the 100% loan to value isn't nearly as egregious as what we know Wells Fargo's doing with up to 150% loan to value. Now, having said that, if the loan is based on 100% of the value of the vehicle, and the people aren't necessarily putting down a whole lot of cash, they're basing it on the retail value of the vehicle, which, if I may help, is higher than what its real value is. What do I mean by that? The wholesale value is the real value. And why is that the real value? Because if the vehicle gets repossessed, it's going to be taken to an auction and sold there. Those are wholesale auctions. Nobody's paying retail price for them. So just as a for instance, if the retail value of the vehicle is $10,000 and the bank is financing $10,000, and we know today that the average used car profit per used vehicle sold is somewhere around $2,000. That means that the wholesale value of that vehicle is really somewhere around $8,000.
Yeah, for sure.
And going down.
Yeah.
So that if you start the loan at 100% of retail, you're already financing 20% air.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to tell you what stands out to me here. This is what I was hoping you'd get to, but I'll take your reaction to it. $23,000 car loan, and we know Carvana sells used cars. That's an overpriced, older used car. We know the quality of used cars is bad. So that's one thing that stands out to me. 72-month term on an older vehicle that's out of warranty, that is not in great quality, that stands out to me. 21% interest stands out to me. That's insanely high. Obviously, for subprime, it's not terribly high, but like that's significantly higher than average, which is 14% for a used car loan right now. 21% over a 72-month term is absolutely nuts to me. That's such a long time to be paying off interest. And at 100% loan to value for a 72-month loan on an aged used car that is out of warranty is bonkers to me, because the bank is essentially underwriting an asset that is going to depreciate significantly and could have and has a greater likelihood of having a major repair or a breakdown. So that's kind of the mixture that I see here, Pops. I hear you on wholesale and retail values are different, but those are some of the key points I see that are saying this is trouble. This is big time trouble.
All those are true, and yes, that's why I wanted to know what the payment is.
All right, what do you think the payment is? I've got it loaded up over here. I'm gonna flash it on the screen. You've got a $23,000 car. You're financing it for 72 months with 21% interest. That's the gist here, folks. What do you think your monthly payment is on that? And the other question I'm going to ask is, what do you think the percentage is of your payments going towards principal and interest over the lifetime of that loan?
Well, I'm going to guess that the payment's somewhere around $590 a month.
Okay, so you're guessing around $590 a month. And do you think 20% of what you're paying is going back to print, is going to be paid towards interest? 100%? That's not 100%. Obviously, you're paying that.
100%, but that car. If it's $600 times 7, that's 42. So you're paying almost double the cost of the car with interest.
All right, folks, here you go. $564 a month.
I was close.
So Carvana, based on that tranche of data we're looking at, they can get people into what for those folks must be an affordable monthly payment, $564 a month. Dad, you're paying back $17,631 in interest. Again, on a $23,000 loan. 43% of what you're paying is just interest over the lifetime of that loan.
And at $564 a month, that is the average used car payment today. Okay, so somebody is paying back $564 a month for the next 6 years. Oh, and I can assure you that during that time, that vehicle will probably need some type of major repair that is going to be significantly more costly than the $564 a month car payment. And more than likely, that person will not have the money to take care of that major repair.
Let's actually do a live experiment. Usually we're on the CarEdge machine. Let's go over to Carvana.
Okay.
Let's see, what is $23,000, or excuse me, what does $564 a month get us? Looks like it's going to get us a relatively new but 2025 used Chevrolet Trax with
which I might add at $23,990 might be more than what it was the MSRP of the car before it became a used car at Carvana.
Let's see what else, Dad. $564 a month would get you. We've got a Nissan Rogue with nearly 20,000 miles. That'll get you, around that price point. Another Chevrolet Trax used one. Let's see, what else? Let's find one more at 23. This one's at another Chevy Trax. Lots of Chevy Trax. Oh, how about this, Dad? Let's see, maybe Shaq's favorites. Let's see Shaq's favorites. How about that?
Ooh.
First one that starts with a 23 is okay. So this is the question I have for you and everyone else here. Is it a smart financial decision to buy a 2022 Hyundai Elantra with 10,000 miles on it for $564 a month for a 6-year car note with 21% interest? Because that's what people are getting themselves into.
Is that
is that value? Is that a good decision? I don't know, man.
Well, we know it's not, because and the reason we know it's not is because the first decision was to go to Carvana and overpay.
Well, this is very true. Carvana has the highest profit per used car sold in the auto industry. It's not even close. I mean, they make like double what other dealers make. So I think that's a really good call out, Dad. You want to get a great price on a used car, you got to go negotiate at a dealership. But even more so, Dad, it's like the financing piece. Like, you got to go to a local credit union, things like that.
I have said it before, and I will continue to beat this drum. Carvana, the only reason they're in the car business is so that they can be loan originators, and then they can then turn around and sell those tranches of loans to buyers of asset-backed securities like that, and that the vehicle to get to loan origination happens to be the sale of vehicles, of automotive vehicles. Their their whole concept is they want to be a loan originator at higher prices, so they're generating larger loans on less valuable commodities than others.
Now,
So,
Dad, yeah.
And they claim, and I don't, we know that, for instance, like CarMax says that their average used car gross profit is somewhere around $2,200, and that they make somewhere around 2,000 in finance back end, in F&I back end. Carvana says that their gross profit, including finance, is like $7,200, which is what's the good word? Astronomical.
It is.
In comparison to their competitors.
But Dad, this is not just a Carvana story. Let's go back to what the CDG team did. This is a CarMax story too. So let's look at this, Dad. Delinquencies are climbing faster than normal, and loan modifications, lenders letting borrowers skip or extend payments, which, Dad, payment extensions are a slippery slope. The interest can pounce on a payment extension. You're actually paying more interest if you extend.
Of course.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of people realize that. Oh, I'm just going to, yeah. Okay, here he goes.
Here's the reality. If somebody needs a payment extension, they don't care that they're going to end up paying more interest. They just care that they can stay in the vehicle that they have at the present time without it being repossessed. So the concern of, will I either have a car to drive, or I have more interest to pay back on the car that I have to drive, that second part of the equation never factors in.
Pops, we've got to. I need you after today's show. Can you play around with your autofocus?
Well, you were supposed to figure that out for me.
I live in DC. You live there. I need you to figure it out, because I'm going to put you full screen again and look at yourself.
I'm fuzzy. Why?
All right. But Dad, back to the CarMax data.
You're going to force me to go into the camera and push modes, and so I'll see if I can figure it out.
I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you, Dad. Delinquencies are climbing faster than normal, and loan modifications, like I said, are increasing. Now look at this, Dad. This is the 30-plus day delinquency, 60-plus day delinquency, and 90-plus day delinquency. For, in this case, this is one of those trusts, one of those tranches
Yes.
of auto loans. And look at the performance. The delinquency rates, they're going up a lot, okay? This is the slope of these lines. The 90-plus days is not nearly as aggressive, but all of them are going up and to the right. And this is most certainly one of those charts where you do not want it going up and to the right. Now, Dad, the other piece to this puzzle that I thought
this is one of those charts where you want it going down and
to the right. Rising payment extensions and fewer repos are thinning wholesale supply and making auctions more competitive. So this is where we start to get into, at least a little bit, the impact on consumers and what's going on in the used car market. In CarMax's 2024 pool, the share of loans modified with 2+ payment extensions has already jumped from under 0.1% to about 0.5% by mid-2025. So think about that for a second. They've seen a 5x increase in their customers who they wrote auto loans to, saying we need to do loan modifications in order for us to not have this vehicle repossessed. Repossessions over at CarMax have inched up from nearly 0% to 0.2%. So still very low relative to everything else. That's that red line here. But we're seeing, Dad, a lack of repos because the banks, in this case CarMax, is being incredibly generous with loan modifications, which again, harm the consumer down the line because they're paying more interest. But we are seeing repos start to go up a little bit. And if you use maybe that modification line as a precursor and a foreshadow for what is to come, you're going to have more repos. So, for the time being, you don't have a lot of used car inventory because there aren't as many repos as there should be. But eventually it's going to have to come around.
It is a situation where in the short term, it is beneficial to the bank because they will be collecting more interest. Okay. I remember in days of old when Knights, no, that's something else. But I remember in days of old when I was in the car business, and we'd have somebody with iffy credit,
Yeah.
and you'd look at their credit report, and they just had a long history of being late 30, 60 days, any number of times during their previous loans.
Yeah.
And one of the ways I used to convince the buyer at the bank to say yes for the new loan was to say, "Hey, they're interest makers. They're making you even more, and yes, they're paying late, but they're paying, and
Yeah.
so you have a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders to get that return on their investment. They're actually making you more money than somebody who has a good credit score and pays in a timely fashion." And I hate to admit how many times that logic helped close a loan for a customer that probably didn't deserve one, but
Yeah.
it's true. And that's why these lenders are doing loan modifications, because for the short term it produces an increase of an unexpected increase in some of the profits, which will look good in the short term. In the long term, might not quite work out the way you had hoped.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's just another example of all the issues that people are having out there.
It absolutely did. And I think, again, another component to this is the inventory situation. We have seen used car inventories increase. They're higher right now than they were a year ago. And I think for all of us that are thinking about buying used cars, the higher inventory goes, the better off we are. The more negotiating power we have, the more leverage. And so if there were more of these vehicles being repossessed, like there are vehicles out there right now that should be repossessed today, but there are not enough repo companies, and the banks are doing what you just said, trying to, in the short term, make things look better than they actually are, which is constricting some of the increases in inventory. So I actually think the potential buyer's market on the used car side of things could be coming, and it actually could be quite strong if some of these other pieces down the line start to fold over.
As much as I would like to think that there's a buyer's market coming,
Yeah.
when you delve into all this data, instead of seeing a buyer's market, I see a collapse. Okay, there is only so long that we can continue down this path where everybody is so entirely over leveraged, and so we talk about it quite often. I saw some headlines today that they're expecting gas prices to rise to $5 or higher in some parts of the country. So when that happens, is that going to make it harder or easier for people to be able to maintain their lifestyles on a monthly basis based on their monthly expenses? I'd say that's going to make it harder. Okay, we know that automobile insurance rates keep going up. We know that the cost to maintain and do repairs to your vehicle keep going up. The cost of the replacement parts keep going up. The cost for the labor to install those costly parts keeps going up. What hasn't kept up with that? Wages. So at a certain level, when you really dig into this data, are we really looking at a buyer's market, or are we looking at a collapse of the market because there are so few people that are financially in a position to participate in the market?
Which feeds the cycle, which is why you see 72-month auto loans at 21% interest rate on older used cars. That's what keeps feeding the cycle. So you know what we're going to see next? We're going to see approvals like the ones that we were talking about just the other day over at Wells Fargo, where they're approving. You have even worse credit. You want even more of a high loan to value ratio? We'll approve it. That's what keeps the merry-go-round going. That's what keeps the lights on in this industry. And to your point, eventually the music stops and there's a collapse. Who knows if that ever happens? We could be doing 10-year, 12-year, 15-year auto loans before you and I get to see the day that comes. I want to just pull up a couple comments. This is clickbait. I don't think this is clickbait. This data that we have our hands on is alarming. And if more people understood the implications of what's going on, I think they would agree with us. The auto industry is, in many ways, shapes and forms, in a state of disaster. I mean, inventory is growing up. And the only way that we seem to be able to get people to keep buying cars is putting them in worse financial positions on older vehicles that are going to cost them more out of warranty. That's disaster. Not today. Things look good today. Carvana is an $85 billion company today. 5 years from now, I don't know. Eventually, the chickens come home to roost.
It's not clickbait when you really dig into the data. It's clickbait if you don't want to look at the data, if you don't want to believe the data, then absolutely it's clickbait. Is the automobile industry perhaps on the precipice of disaster? I think the entire country is on the precipice of disaster because.
But we focus here on what?
Over leveraged,
but we focus on, you know.
I get that, but you know, sometimes the macro is equally as important as the micro, and so I just think that when you look at it, when you look at that data, it's telling you a story. Okay. And the story is people are finding it more difficult today to live and pay off all their obligations with what they are earning. That is the story.
Well, but you can't just end the story there, Dad, because then the other part of the story, the continuation is, so then people in big banks, Wall Street, finance companies are getting creative and getting loose with their lending guidelines to continue to keep the cycle going. If you just stop with people can't afford things today, then actually that wouldn't be a collapse. That would be, all right, there's a slowdown, a recession. The collapse potential comes from the fact that people cannot afford things today, but financial institutions are engineering ways for them to be able to afford
artificially engineering ways for people to be able to continue leveraging themselves beyond what makes reasonable sense.
Whew. Okay, well, anyway, that was the Carvana and CarMax data. So obviously important that we dug into it. Matthew, going to get us off that track. And then I wanted to just talk Volkswagen for a moment, folks. Thank you, Matthew. Yes. Here's one for you, Pops. Insurance quote for the Porsche 718 GTS, 50% more car than the M4, same coverage, 20% less. Graduated out of hooliganism, those who can pay the most. That's so interesting that, you know, two sports cars, but the Porsche's got significantly lower insurance payment. So fascinating.
Could that be because the amount of M4 sold is considerably higher than, say, the amount of those Porsches that he's talking about?
Maybe.
And maybe what insurance companies have seen is that those who can afford those particular Porsches are actually safer drivers than many of those who end up buying an M series. And have they really should not ever be behind the wheel of one.
Now, Dad, before we turn to the final story on today's episode of CarEdge Live, a friendly reminder, CarEdge.com. If we can help y'all out, please check out the website. Got some fun stuff coming next week. Cannot wait to share that with the community. But folks, take advantage of what we have back on the website. The final story for today, Dad, Volkswagen. We've been talking about Volkswagen for over a year now. They're struggling domestically over in Europe and Germany, but they're also struggling here in the United States. Sales actually fell for the second quarter in a row. Audi actually saw a little bit of sales growth, but Volkswagen overall, man, they're in they're kind of looking like Stellantis 2.0. I'm just calling it right now.
To a certain degree, yes. And you know, their sales decline for this quarter would have been considerably worse had there not been the pull ahead for EV
sales,
so due to the federal tax credits going away. So they are struggling. Their sales are, I forget what they were, 6%, 7%. That number would have been significantly higher if they hadn't had a record month selling ID4s.
All right, Josh is putting us on the spot. Recall check-in. Let's do it. I haven't looked at the data, so let me pull it up really quickly here.
Last week Ford was at 115 and counting.
Fascinating. We've gone backwards.
Well, how do you do that?
We're at 113.
How do you do that? Just out of curiosity, really, how do you do that? How could you have had 115 recalls last Friday through the last Friday's date, year to date, and suddenly 2 recalls have fallen off? Really? How does that happen?
I don't know. Keep me honest here, guys. I'll pull back up on the screen. I go to the same website each time this year.
Yeah. And I do remember last week it was 115.
Someone pulled the tape. I think it was 115.
No, I don't think it was. I know it was.
Recall gate, baby. Recall gate. Recall gate. CarEdge
Yes.
on the recall gate.
God, another scandal.
Maybe that'll be a future show topic. All right, y'all. We are not on the air tomorrow. I'll be on an airplane flying to the West Coast. My dad will be doing a news segment. Which station?
A station in Columbus, Georgia.
Columbus, Georgia. Okay, so you're doing a news segment.
D.
Nice. That'll be so fun. Can't wait to watch it.
Yes.
I'm flying out.
I have no idea who D is, but I am absolutely looking forward to meeting her and chatting with her tomorrow.
Love that for you. Maybe do just a tinge of research, but your discretion. But we'll be back on Monday. Can't wait for more CarEdge Live on Monday.
Absolutely. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And we look forward, hopefully, to seeing you and many more back here on Monday.
See you, Pops. Love you.
Love you too, handsome.